Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to come to Fashion Summit again. I think everybody is a familiar face with you. I'm in the industry for quite a long time. And it's a good time that this time we have a guest from different industry, different segment.恆隆property, shopping mall, and also a big company, big corporate, bank, Serena, and also retailers. So this time, besides the fashion industry, we have a lot, because of the COVID, we have a lot of changes about financing. We face more problems, facing more challenging on financing. So this panel we are going to share from different angle, different insight to every one of you here. And the last 5 or 10 minutes, we will have a Q&A section. So if anyone wants to ask us any questions, please feel free to do. I just have a quick review with our honorable guests here. We really want to make some discussion here after they present for what they are bringing up for sharing with us today. So let's get started, okay? Let's start with Emily. So Emily also will share some of the company insight with you and her experience with you about her work in the company. Emily.
Hello, everyone. I'm Emily Ng. So I have worked in ANTA Sports Product Limited over 9 years already. I was originally in investor relations department, and I was shifted to the sustainability department since 2020. So for those who are not familiar with ANTA, I just want to give you some quick introduction about our company. So ANTA Sports Product Limited, 安踏體育用品有限公司 ANTA 體育用品有限公司 We are one of the listed companies in Hong Kong, and we are one of the blue chip companies. So ANTA is actually a leading sportswear brand in China. We have over 10 sportswear brands, including ANTA brand, ANTA Kids brand, Fila brand, Fila Kids brand, Fila Fusion brand, Diswan brand, and Kowloon's brand. And in 2019, we acquired another Finnish company called ANTA Sport. And ANTA Sport actually have the Solomon, Arc'teryx, Wilson, and the other brands. So we firstly published our ESG report since 2016. And we set up the sustainability committee at board level and also have the ESG execution framework since 2020. Over the years, we made quite a lot of achievements. In environment, we committed to SBT this year. We hope to achieve the carbon neutrality by 2050, and we have the 1+3+5 environmental plan ready. For supply chain, we have become the member of SAC. We are the members of the ZDXC and now LWG, and try to manage the impacts over the entire value chain. We have nearly 60,000 employees in China, Hong Kong, and other foreign countries, and 36% of the executive positions are held by women. And we also one of the members of the WRAPS, the WDPS, the Women Empowerment Principles, which is also one of the principles by United Nations. We are the strategic partner of WWF. We're trying to work with them to promote biodiversity in China. And finally, we are the members of the UNGC, the United Nations Global Compact, trying to support its 10 principles and also its 17 SDGs. In the future, we will continue to launch more environmental products and hope you guys can see more environmental products in the reality world. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Emily. So next one I will have John to give us some sharing about his company and also his work. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Yeah, if you don't mind, I think I'm gonna stand up for this because the slides that I can see here are just at the distance in between what my eyes can see and where my glasses can help. So I'm just gonna stand up.
Yeah, stand up,
so
never mind.
I can see more easily over here, and then I'll come and sit down again. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, and I see, by the way, that Redress is one of the sponsors. We're very happy. We actually collaborate with Redress at恆隆, so good to see that. Just wanted to mention that, and it's a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation to be here. So about恆隆, you're probably wondering, why is a real estate company? What are we doing at a fashion summit? I think the slides will help answer that. So first of all,恆隆is, I think many of you may know us. We've been in Hong Kong for a long time, 60-year-old company, headquartered in Hong Kong. We develop world-class properties in Hong Kong and mainland China in all of the cities that you see here. But one of the important points is that we're anchored by high-end malls featuring luxury brands. And that's really goes to the core of the financial viability of our business. We're very fortunate to have a lot of luxury brands as tenants. So we'll come back to that a little bit later. So we were established in 1960. We have our vision, mission, and values here. One point just two things I'd highlight from this slide. One is that when we talk about sustainable growth, we mean it in the financial sense and also in the ESG sense. And our CEO has an expression that we've quoted in our report that we see the two as very much interconnected, that we can't do one without the other. Can't do a lot of exciting ESG initiatives if you don't have the money, stability to invest, but you also need the financial viability of a business to keep going on as a company. And you can see our values include sustainability, but I would say integrity is also an ESG value, right? If you don't behave with integrity, it's like your health. If your health is taken away, you can't do anything else. If there's questions around the integrity of the business, you can't do anything else. And we strive for excellence, and openness here also means openness to ideas at different levels of the company, and openness in the sense also of hospitality. So we have a sustainability framework which provides a focus for our sustainability initiatives. We established this, it was endorsed by our boards in 2020, and the 4 priorities here, you can see climate resilience, resource management, well-being, and sustainable transactions. The first 3 might be more intuitive. Climate resilience is about emissions reduction, but it's also about adapting to a changing climate. We can see in Hong Kong, this is increasingly a reality for us with what's happened recently with rainstorm events, with typhoon events. Resource management is this transition to circularity, which is a major theme that I think fashion and apparel, textile is confronting, this challenge of how do we move to a more circular business model. But I would say every sector needs to move to a more circular model. The linear model, make waste needs to shift to a circular model where we keep products in use at their highest value. Well-being, we spend about 90% of our time in the built environment. So, and we see after COVID, especially how important well-being is in the built environment. Sustainable transactions, this is maybe the one that's sort of a bit odd as a term. We came up with this term. But the idea is to embed sustainability along our value chain. So our suppliers upstream, our tenants downstream, and the work that we do with financial institutions is also a part of that. So it's really embedding sustainability throughout our business. And also importantly, we have an agenda across various time horizons. So if you look ahead to 2050, we're proud to be the first Hong Kong or China-based real estate company to have our targets endorsed by the Science Based Target Initiative, which basically what they do is they endorse the rigor of your targets along a science-based trajectory to make sure that your emissions reduction plan is rigorous enough. And so that's where we want to be by 2050. We want to get to net zero. And along the way, we have various stages of targets, including annual ESG KPIs that are tied to the performance review process for our employees. So this goes to the people look at who's underperforming, performing well, et cetera. The ESG component is a part of that review, which provides an incentive internally for people. And then 2025 and 2030 targets as well. I wanted to include this slide on sustainable finance, even though the theme today is sustainable investing, just because I think the two issues are related, and we have DVS with us. We are fortunate that we've made good progress in terms of sustainable finance. Happy to talk about that a little bit more later, but sustainable finance is an interesting area where the banks and financial institutions are actually taking an interest in our own performance targets. So we set sustainability performance targets, then they will provide us with sustainability-linked loans that are linked to those targets. And we also have green bonds and so on. So that's all falls under our sustainable finance framework. And now I come to maybe the sort of I think the origin of why we were invited to be a part of this summit, we announced last year a major partnership with LVMH Group, very exciting, first of its kind for either of us anywhere in the world. And so it's a real honor for us that LVMH decided to do this with us in China, and what they're learning to do with us, then they will apply it elsewhere in the world. So and we talk about co-creation with them. And so you can see our vice chair standing with Antoine Arnault in Paris when we announced the agreement a year ago. And we would go so far as to say that it actually reimagines the relationship between a landlord and a tenant around a deep collaboration on a common agenda. And so my counterpart at LVMH was saying that this will be really something that will set the stage differently around relationships around the world. So it includes 26 leading luxury brands, 90+ retail spaces with a variety of different actions. And the concept, in a nutshell, is how can we do more together by collaborating? So what's interesting is that LVMH already has its own sustainability commitments. They don't need us to make the case to them for why sustainability matters. But what they see in the agreement is the opportunity to consolidate their efforts, to make progress faster in certain areas. And they're also quite decentralized as a very large group and having many different brands. They see it also as an opportunity to shore up some of their internal practices by having everyone create a sense of community together. So we're building a sense of community with them around sustainability. And we started with a real estate and climate forum. It was a month after we announced our collaboration. We brought together about 96 change makers representing both groups. And the idea was to have this ideation process that would set the agenda for what we would do together. And we had all kinds of ideas collected. You can see we had, I think, 200 ideas altogether. And then from those, we had a number of key discoveries that set the stage for what we're going to do together in a common charter, which we announced in March of this year. And this is publicly available if you want to have a look. We basically said to the world, these are the things we want to work on this year. We know we're going to make more progress in some areas than others. We don't expect that a year later, all 20 areas will be equally successful, but we're putting it out there. We're going to make ourselves publicly accountable for making our best efforts in these 20 areas, and then a year later, we're going to tell you how we did against these 20 areas of collaboration. And we see partnerships even beyond the two groups as very important. So we're working with NGOs, universities, subject matter experts to advance this very ambitious agenda. And we can talk a little bit more about why did this come to life and how did it become so ambitious. But part of it just has to do also with our counterparts there really wanting to do something ambitious and exciting with the sense that we need to speed up progress together. And the landlords and tenants are in the same space. And if we can work together and create a sense of community, we can help each other move forward faster together. So I just want to stop there. Happy to say more in the discussion. I know the main point is to have interaction together, but we're all in this together and happy to answer more questions about the LVMH partnership or other aspects of the business later. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. And now, Serena, please introduce, give me some sharing. Thank you.
Sure. So a quick introduction. I'm Serena Mac. I look after the sustainable finance efforts in DBS Hong Kong for corporate banking. Now, whilst the screen is pulling up, so DBS is obviously a bank, and as John was mentioning, I also wanted to establish a little bit of why a bank is here. Now, obviously, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation from the Fashion Summit for us to be joining this event, and I'm actually very glad to see sustainable fashion was the topic, because actually just, I think, a couple weeks ago, if you've seen on the news, DBS has announced a partnership with one of the decarbonization consultants for the apparel industry, actually, to help with large brands, small brands alike on their decarbonization journey. Now, as a bank, right, we are a bank headquartered in Singapore with a strong presence in Hong Kong across 6 other markets, and we operate in 19 countries across. What do we do? Why are we here? As a bank, our slogan, right, we are live more, bank less, but here we're trying to tell you also live more, carbon less. Our decarbonization journey cannot be done on our own. Where is our bank's carbon emission coming from? From our clients. So the whole ecosystem, the whole economy actually need to get together. I will probably be working with John on a sustainability linked transaction to try to reduce greenhouse gas. I may be also working with Emily on a transaction to improve the conditions for certain locations for some of the factories. So for us, we see ourselves as like a traffic warden, if you will, of helping to drive capital to where the projects make sense. Now, of course, out of the many projects we have out here in the fashion industry, in the apparel industry, real estate, different industries alike, how do we know what are the projects that are meaningful, so to speak? Now, I think we had a really good conversation with the panel earlier, and I think those will be some of the good topics that will be discussed later. But what will we be doing as a bank, right? So DBS is one of the first Southeast Asian and one of the first 100 banks to sign up to this Net Zero Banking Alliance. So we already have our targets that we wanted to be net zero. But as I was alluding to before, net zero, you can't eat with just one chopstick. You really need the clients to be on board with you to have same goals and same kind of vision in order to go net zero together. So what is it that we do? If I can have the clicker. No problem. I was kind of talking through and I realized I wasn't really moving ahead. Now, so what do we do? So DBS, we have our sustainability pillars. We wanted to wrap ourselves around responsible banking practices, responsible business practices, and then also we wanted to make an impact to the community. Now for responsible banking, right, I think we'll come into it a little bit later, but for those of you in the fashion industry or apparel industry, something to think about is, I think, like the way to kind of put your sustainability agenda into a visible framework actually does help for you to put things into perspective. And the other part of it is it helps us as a bank to find ways to work with you on the financing as well. More to come on that in a bit. So for this, right, if we are thinking about the net zero transition, which is on the bottom right-hand corner, the net zero transition is what? The net zero transition is, we know this is only 2023, and 2050 is 27 years away. Now, if we don't start walking to 2050, by 2050, we will still be where we are today. And so for us, there is going to be a transition period where clients will be upgrading their machinery, trying to be more energy efficient, or at the very least, trying to collect data from their suppliers in order to be able to assess where they are in terms of their decarbonization journey. And we are here to help. Now, I think we need not discuss the importance of sustainability in business, because I think that is kind of the reason why the Fashion Summit also has a sustainable finance component and a sustainable fashion title, probably explains it already. But in the essence, what exactly is it? I think one thing that we've been actually talking to a lot of clients and coming to my realization as well is as John was alluding to earlier, it actually penetrates all parts of the operations. It's not something on the side where you say, I want it to be ESG or I want it to be sustainable. Sustainability is being energy efficient in your operation, using less water in your dyeing process, taking care of your employees' mental health. These are all ESG items, whether we realize it or not. So doing sustainability actually is basically nothing but putting a framework around what we're already doing, trying to make it better. Now, one concept I do want to introduce before I wrap is transition financing. In the banking world, I think the term transition is getting a bit of traction, but what is transition? So we've all heard about green loans. Green loans are for projects that are environmentally positive. So say, solar panels. This is the top of mind for everybody. Actually, I want to introduce, think about wind turbine. Think about green hydrogen. These are also green projects. So you have some more examples when you're thinking about this. So apart from green loans, we have sustainability-linked loans where we try to encourage the corporates to do better. In these things in between, we know some of the customers will need some time. They might actually be switching from a coal boiler to a natural gas boiler before they can switch to a green hydrogen boiler. Things takes time. Technology takes time. And so we are willing to support everybody in something called transition financing. What does that mean? That means we were hoping to work with our clients to have a decarbonization pathway. So you tell us by 2035, I will be off my natural gas boiler. But as of right now, I need money to buy it. That's all good. So these are kind of the things we can make a difference by kind of helping to finance our clients, as I was mentioning before, being a traffic warden, directing the capital to where things need to be like these projects are one of them. So don't worry about, oh, it's not green, it's natural gas, or it's not green, it's not direct, it's not 100% green. We all understand, and I think the financial world, also even the regulators, are already looking into putting more kind of thoughts and framework around what is called transition financing to help the real economy and the manufacturers alike with their journey. Just a couple of things. I think we've been very proud for DBS as part of, like the sustainable finance community. We are awarded the best bank for sustainable finance in Hong Kong. We won the best bank in the world for CSR. So I think, not just the fact that, I'm here speaking to all of you today, but I think, like this topic is something that does matter very closely to our heart, and I look forward to interacting with everybody in the panel.
Thank you, Serena. Thank you. I think those keywords like sustainability, ESG standard, and also related to sustainable finance, green finance, is a lot of keywords around us, and also in our industry. I have a few questions with you here. So nowadays, many companies are moving towards a sustainable fashion, and many companies are also paying, serious attention to ESG reporting or sustainable report. Right now, even I think Europe, is starting to have a compulsory for company with a suitable size that they have their ESG data and report is ready. It's a compulsory thing already. So what will be your advice for other companies based on your experience? I think, Emily, I would ask you this first question because I know that you have been working in your company for 9 years and you start your journey quite earlier because, the topic sustainability, I think, have been long. But really put into practice, especially in our industry, is just this few years. I think more attentions, right? Would you like to share with us, your journey? Because internally, I know that a lot of, the business people, operation, they don't think that is that important, right, Emily? Good to share with us.
I'm actually working in sustainability department right now. We set up the sustainability department in 2020, and actually myself is responsible for the ESG disclosure, which is the ESG report, for the rating companies, the compliance, because we have the sustainability committee. We have to have 4 meetings every year to turn the sustainability committee. That's what we have done and what we need from you guys. And also, I'm also helping with the awards and also the past release. Basically, I'm doing the ESG disclosure. So I start to help with the very first ESG report for ANTA Sport. So right now, we have already published ESG report already. So my suggestion is to try to get more support and resources from the management and also the board and the sustainability committee, just trying to get more support as much as possible. And the support from the internal stakeholder and the external stakeholders are really important. So back to 2016, my company is a listed company in Hong Kong, but we actually were very much about institutional investor. So previously, I worked in investor relations department. There are lots of institutional investors who just come to us starting from 2016 and saying that we hope to arrange some calls or meeting with your company, talking about the sustainability operation that you guys have done and what you guys could done in the futures. And we will just send you a long letter to chairman that we hope you guys to improve your sustainability, starting from supply chain, labor issues, governance, hoping to have more female directors at the board level doing A, B, C, D, E, F, Gs. It's actually a very much very long chairman letters to about improving the sustainability. So after over years, after the educations to the management and also the sustainability, I actually to the board and also to the management, we finally set up the sustainability department and also the committee in 2020. So we, as a listed company in Hong Kong, we not only have to fulfill the listed requirements of Hong Kong Stock Exchange, we also concern a lot about the international reporting framework, which are the GRI, SASB, ISSB, TCFD. You guys may know a lot more than me actually. And also, my company is also value a lot about the rating companies. There are actually over 10 ESG rating companies globally, and my company has to focus over 5 of them. So my work is we have to do a lot of gap analysis about how should we improve in each of the ratings, like MSCI, Sustainalytics, Dow Jones, IPD, CDP. So there's actually a lot of work. And we cannot just put whatever the rating companies require to do and just write everything on the ESG report. You have to get the things done. You have to get the work done in order to write into the ESG report. So then become a long discussion with the operation department, telling them what they could do in the future in order to get the better ratings for ANTA. So we set the KPI. We have the KPI ready for each of the operation department, like the human resources department, supply chain department, quality department, IT department, and for each of the factories about how should they reduce carbon emission in the future in order to get a better score in the ESG ratings. So come back to us. We are doing ESG disclosure, but actually ESG disclosure for my company is more like disclosure driven. So what institutional investor hope us to do, or what the stakeholder want us to do, we're just trying to do whatever we can to improve our sustainability performance. So my advice, getting more support and resources from the sustainability committee or the board, and from the management. I know it takes time. They may not really put the top priority to sustainability at the very first moment. But it takes once and once, it just takes some times for them to educate them, to have some conversation with them. And trust me, it will just all worth it. And just not really rush it to avoid greenwashings.
Thank you, Emily. I think John is also part of your work on this. I think you can share more with us. Please, John.
Sure. Yeah, I think sometimes companies will think about reporting just as a compliance issue, and I would suggest that that's not a sufficient way to think about it, or even the right way to think about it. Of course, it is a compliance issue if you're a listed company, but there are even non-listed companies that are doing reporting, and I think reporting can bring a lot of benefits. The way I would suggest people think about it is to start to create a loop in your company between the things you're working on and the things you're sharing, and let those be mutually reinforcing. So you work on new initiatives, and then you give some accounting for those in an annual sustainability report, and that report is a chance to credit colleagues that have worked on things. So that'd be one thing. Another thing, though, is that Emily talked about the alphabet soup of rating agencies, reporting standards, and so on, and it can be overwhelming. So I think you need to take a materiality approach, prioritization for what matters in your business, and if you're in the fashion business or apparel, textile business, you can look at other leading sustainability reports to get indications of what matters. I mean, supply chain is going to be a big issue. How you manage the kind of material and environmental impact of your life cycle. These are the kinds of things that I would think will come up a lot. And so you don't have to do everything. You don't have to boil the ocean, to use a consulting expression. You just have to focus on the issues that are most material or important to your business. And then while you want to give yourself credit for doing good things, I think you also want to put those good things you're doing in context. And you should write the report for someone who's an expert in your sector. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying that it has to be written in a highly technical way. You can still write it in a very accessible way with good, clear language. But write it for somebody who knows your business, because you won't fool them if you exaggerate the impact of what you're doing. So it's perfectly fine to put it in context and say, look, this is a big challenge for us. We're just getting started. This is a 10, 20-year journey on some of these issues. But here's what we're doing now. And I think that will bring more credibility to the greenwashing point than really trying to exaggerate. So don't treat the report as an opportunity as a kind of marketing exercise. Treat it as an exercise in some transparency in balanced reporting. And then the last thing I would say is you can also use the reporting process to ask for help. And what I mean by that is that partnerships are fundamental to a lot of these sustainability challenges. And sustainability is different than the commercial side of the business. You know, you have competitors in the commercial side of your business. What's interesting about the sustainability space, people are very collaborative and people are willing to share information. I know there's some good coalitions. I see there's some booths outside already also with various initiatives. You leverage those. So don't try to reinvent the wheel as a business, but leverage what's out there in your sector already and ask your stakeholders for help. So it's perfectly okay. And I think, again, goes to the credibility point to say, this is a challenging area for us. So for our business, for example, steel and cement, concrete decarbonization, huge challenges. There's no way we can do this on our own. We need help with other stakeholders, and we're very transparent about that. That would be the last thing I'd say.
And I think, you know, I think Serena, like bank, right? If I'm your clients, you're my financier, you know, supporting me. I think you feel good that even an SME, I can support, you know, share with you my sustainability report. You know, I think before when we do business, when we approach customer like our industry, let's say I come to see you, as I'm a manufacturer, I will share with you my factory profile or company profile. Right now, I can see that a lot of companies, you know, putting more element about sustainability onto their introductions. That's the change. And I think Serena, as a bank, right, I think your company also put a lot of focus and also reward, you know, to company which they have good environmental performance or ESG performance or sustainability performance, right?
So I think I have also a commercial view about, you know, like reporting. So one way definitely, I think Emily has a great point about getting internal support. I think there's no different from a bank on our side trying to get our own sustainability report done. That is full disclosure. It actually is the same. In terms of the data, though, I think one way to kind of also get some additional lift to the data is that think about how the data can help you once it's collected. So it is no different from getting operational data and trying to improve. And I think to Peter's point earlier, we already see that this is being more and more asked for SMEs or for mid-corps alike when they're interacting with somebody in the other part of the value chain. So if you're not measuring it right now, you risk getting missed out in some of these opportunities. So it has somehow evolved beyond I need to check my box, I'm a listed company, I need to disclose, into if I don't get this, I actually might not get some of the opportunities. I might not get into the door of some of the very sustainability-focused operations or corporations. So that's one way. So that's one way to add lift to trying to get data, which is also how we try to get lift for our internal data as well. Now, the other part of it is how we can use it. Now, I think John had a very, very good point about data drives disclosure, data drives improvement also. You can't improve what you don't know. And so once you have your, you know, like carbon emission data, what can you use it for? You can think about using it for sustainable finance, you know, transactions. Now, the one additional layer I wanted to add to Emily's point about greenwashing is from a bank, we also have a fiduciary duty about, you know, we want to make sure the data that is provided to us comes from a good source. And so first of all, if you haven't started yet, try to start now, because for us to collect data, you need some time to collect. So if you start now, your probably first cut of data is going to come, say, 2024, will be my best guess. And then once you have it, we will probably be asking for 3 years of historical data for assessment. So, you know, it's good to start having some kind of, it's no different than trying to get a couple of years of your pay slip and try to get a credit card.
Right now, the more challenging is not only about data, is how trustful is your data.
Correct.
And how to compare with the earlier data, because people talk about digitalization, and then we talk about AI, right? So all these things need data. And it's really like, I think Emily will agree with me, it's rather difficult to get the data along your supply chains, right? So let me share some of you. You see WWF, we have the LCMP, Loop Plus program. I think this is also a very good thing for manufacturers, for people to start to think about it and to start their carbon emission journey, because I think different industry also demand, for a good result on the carbon emissions. This is the new normal right now. And I also have other questions to our guests here. We also think about recently about, I do research like the quality of your report, sustainable report with data. I think after this, I think this few years after the COVID, people are getting more communicated through internet, through more meet by person, and like IoT, like a lot of technology and also innovations can help people to obtain data. And Emily, I think both of us feels problems is to obtain the data take long time, and we have time schedule to complete it. So a lot of technology is there. For us, we have a research with one of our in China. We do raw material. So is there any business model or any suggestions you can recommend to our garment or fashion industry people, how they can engage more with sustainable finance, green finance? Of course, I know that Hong Kong have a lot of fundings already. Like Serena said, your transaction period, we need financing. Is there, Serena, any from DBS you can share with us as a manufacturer or designer or brand? Like DBS can, any green finance or sustainable finance, supply chain finance, can the industry people can engage with?
So two examples that come to mind. One is a real case. I cannot name names, but then it was actually a very big fashion brand. So they work with us in one location, giving us some kind of facility agreements. And based on that, we were able to support their suppliers or their manufacturers in some other emerging market in the factory to help them decarbonize. So, I think there is power in kind of getting the whole value chain together. The other part of it is, Peter, you were mentioning about the different kind of invoicing or transaction period. One thing that we're also trying to do is to work with the large brands. That's another thing, the power of the value chain. So we can design programs where if you have better sustainability performance, your invoice gets paid earlier by us, not by the brand. And then at the end, we'll face off the brand for the final settlement. But in that, we take a lot of the pressure off the second or mid layer of the suppliers by waiting 30 days, 60 days, 90 days for the invoice to get paid. We can settle for you ahead of schedule, and you get better terms depending on your sustainability performance. So actually you can get a win-win solution by getting financing as well as improving your sustainability performance. That I think is something that we're also trying to get to with some of our large clients.
Thank you. And I think maybe John can also share some with us. It seems like your company is not directly related to our industry, right? Like恆隆, what do you think you can, help our ministry and help us to push for sustainability or decarbonization? Anything you can share with us?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think it comes back to what I was saying before. If you just look at the built environment as a community, there are opportunities for people to collaborate in that community. So the original idea, or if you go back several years, people started to talk about green leases. I think the green lease concept is a promising one, but and I'm going to suggest there's another way we can interpret it alongside green leases. But the green lease concept is sort of focusing on carrots and sticks, right? And the premise of green leases, at least in one formulation, is that the landlord will provide some incentive for the tenant to do something more sustainably. And you can look at different examples of this, both in Australia and the UK. There are examples of green lease provisions that you can look up, legal provisions. And actually, when we started thinking about how to collaborate with tenants, we also kind of approached it in this way. And we tried to come up with kind of a legal frame for engaging our tenants. What we ended up finding with LVMH, although we do have a legal agreement with them, that the legal side of the agreement is not what drives it so much as the culture of both groups, in a sense. If I just observe what's happened, we found a willingness to collaborate. And so I'm going to give you another way of thinking about it alongside green leases. So the green lease is sort of saying the landlord gets the tenant to do something. The tenant might be a fashion brand, right? But it can also equally be the case that the tenant is asking the landlord to do more. And I think that that's something that's going to happen in the future. I think particularly where you have tenants that have considerable bargaining power that are very large, their stakeholders are also paying attention to them and their footprint globally, and they want to know who are your landlords, right? So I think it can work in either direction. It doesn't have to be the landlord, it can be the tenant to the landlord. And so the other way to think about it also is sort of like a Venn diagram of overlapping commitments. If you look at the public commitments of a sports group, or you look at or DBS's sustainability report, and then you map that against what恆隆is publicly committed to doing, you'll find there's already a lot of areas of overlap. If there are areas of overlap around things we're publicly committed to doing, then in theory, we shouldn't need to convince each other to do these things. We've already committed to doing these things, right? So the question is, how can, again, we get more done together by working faster on these things? So I'll give an example, like energy efficiency. We have our own energy efficiency commitments, but we also want our tenants to be more energy efficient. It can start with very simple things like common commitment to turning off the lights at night. I mean, you'd be surprised. That sounds like a very small thing, but if you add that up across the city, it can have a huge impact. And not just on energy efficiency, by the way, but also on bird collisions, night pollution. I mean, there's a bunch of other things. So some things are much more complex and require a lot of data. Some things can be relatively simple, like waste separation at source, and then allowing for more recycling, or attention to indoor air quality, both in the kind of common area of the landlord side or in the premises of the store of a particular brand, or community impact. We can collaborate together to kind of redouble or amplify one another's impact. There might be a volunteering initiative or some community initiative where by getting more people in the community involved, we can have an outsized impact together. You just think about it, the landlord and tenant is a legal construct, and it's kind of like it's a business relationship, but it's also a community. So I think there's lots of things that can be done together. And similarly on the banking side or with our investors, our investors, we have some sophisticated institutional investors, particularly from Europe, that ask us very good questions. And I look on that as a very welcome kind of positive pressure, because then, to Emily's point about getting internal support, I can use their questions to go back internally to advocate for various initiatives. And I can say, we had this really interesting institutional investor meeting, and they asked us the following questions, and they wanted to see progress on the following issues in our next sustainability report. So you see, it's not just the sustainability team asking for these things. We're not just making this up. This is where the world is headed. And then I think just to come back, I think also to the point that was made earlier around opportunity, right? I mean, this is not just, again, a compliance exercise. So I think if you say, where are your opportunities, and take a strategic approach, you may find that there are natural collaborators to go beyond your business.
Oh, I just remember that word compliance. Like 10 or 15 years ago, everybody, what I did is compliance. Like factory evaluation, labor standard, those stuff. And right now, it seems like some time ago, we start to talk about the 17 SDG goal for sustainability. And recently, these few years, we have a lot of standard about ESG standard. Maybe Emily, you can share with us for apparel industry, for fashion industry. You mentioned there is a lot of index. There is a lot of standard, ESG standard. Among your work, can you recommend us which is the best standard? For me, I also write my sustainability report ourselves. We also have our debate. We follow the GRI standard because right now there is a lot and also changing. Even as I know, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange is also moving up and down. So what you will recommend us?
For the reporting framework, if you are a listed company in Hong Kong, you have to fulfill the Hong Kong Exchange. And if you are a listed company in Hong Kong, you have to follow the TCFD. And also maybe the SASB, the SASB 2B. So these are the framework.
This scares us.
You have to
We
follow.
want to find one, among your experience, one base one you think is easy to understand and good one.
I would not suggest about ESG reporting framework. I would suggest the ESG rating companies. Because, for example, like Dow Jones, and right now the name is S&P, they provide full pictures about sustainability from each of the pillars, which is the social, environmental, and governance. It's actually quite comprehensive. So if you get a really over 50 score from S&P, which is Dow Jones, that means you are really doing a great job in sustainability already. So we just follow the requirements from the rating companies rather than the ESG reporting framework. And the ESG reporting framework, they actually, for example, for the GRI, it's actually like a dictionary to me. And it may not apply to all industry. Yeah. So for apparel industry, or for fashion industry, or for shoes industry, the requirement from the GRI may not apply to your company. Yeah. So it really depends. So my suggestion is, beside the requirement of Hong Kong Stock Exchange, you can follow the suggestion or requirements from the ESG rating companies.
That's why I'm also working with Thomas Wong, Professor Thomas Wong, and also different agents to start up a simple version, not for listed company, for SME. But of course, another challenge for this company, because I'm doing research. Nowadays, like apparel industry, our industry, there's maybe more than 140 listed company. I really make a research, pull out 75 company for the ESG report, and the result is not great. There's so many rooms for improvement. And for SME, I think we really started to talk about this. In the old days, we have a social labor compliance, right? We also have a quality standard, TQM measure. So for us as a manufacturer, ESG is not new. It's not that new. The latest new things is about the carbon emission. So that's why we have here with Luplus, with WGO, with WWF, a lot of agents. I think we can start to our net zero journey. I think even you're a small company, we should start a little on that size. Oh,
can I just jump in on your question,
please.
If you don't mind? Which standard? I think because again, it can be intimidating and even overwhelming for people if you look at all of the different frameworks that are out there. It's true if you're a listed company in Hong Kong, then there's just certain things you have to do by the Hong Kong Exchange. And if you're a non-listed company, you can take reference from what listed companies are doing here. If you look at leaders in your sector, you can always learn from them. And that's the other thing about sustainability reporting. It creates a kind of positive peer pressure where we will take a look at what our peers are doing, not just in Hong Kong, but elsewhere, and we'll say, so-and-so, CDL in Singapore is a leader. Swire, in Hong Kong. We look at Australian real estate companies, Dexus and Stockland, and we learn from what they've disclosed. And then we say, okay, this is something interesting and new that we can learn from as well. So that's one way to kind of speed up the process. The other thing I would say is, again, if you focus on the issues that are most important for you, your business, that's going to cover 80% of the reporting requirements typically. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, but there's a core set of issues that you're going to need to disclose in different ways through different frameworks. And then you may need advice on, adjusting beyond that. There's also this idea of double materiality that we're starting to hear more about, that I think everyone's going to start to hear more about, which is what does that mean? That means, okay, first of all, you look at what is the impact of your business on the environment and social issues. So like your pollution, how are you kind of adding to the pollution problem or helping to solve it? That's one direction. But the other direction is, how is the changing environment going to impact your business? Right? So you need to think about both of those things. If you have a factory that's going to be highly exposed to flooding, then that's also an impact on your business. And so you have to pay attention to both of those things. And so the global reporting initiative tends to be paying attention to your impact on the environment. And I think the International Sustainability Standards Board is now paying attention to how is the changing environment going to impact your business. So that's really an investor-focused disclosure that investors are very excited about ISSB. So I think if you want to know what investors are thinking about, you may want to look up ISSB. And then that's coming in to the Hong Kong Exchange. They had a consultation paper on climate disclosure. And I think down the road, we'll probably see also they'll incorporate something broader from ISSB on ESG. I want to, though, just encourage you to maybe not worry, I mean, have to worry, think about, but like all the different acronyms out there can be intimidating, but if you focus on what's most important for your business, it'll help you kind of navigate a lot of that.
Yeah.
If I can,
Serena.
I think a lot of our clients were asking in terms of reporting, well, what does it matter? So, for ISSB or the International Sustainability Standards Board, it's commendable that actually they narrow things down into something that's financially meaningful, because out of the world of ESG items, you kind of need to pick and choose. Now, I also wanted to offer some practical thoughts for SMEs, because we understand that not all kind of teams or not all companies can have a sustainability department and be able to be operating, look into all the details on their own. Sometimes we know that some of the companies actually will engage external help to get the report. It's all good, it's a good start, but what I will kind of offer is, if you're thinking about your sustainability, if you don't want to kind of get the sustainability report out, at least at this point in time, look at what's important to you. From an operational perspective, look at the industry. There must be 3 to 5 or 10 things that you wanted to be focusing on, and that there's no need to kind of think about all the alphabet soup if you just wanted to get started. The other part of it is, if you already have an external help and have a report, don't leave it on the table as a printed deck. Use it to your advantage, because you've already engaged somebody to write up a report that check all the boxes for you. And now that you have it, then you treat it as an a first cut of your materiality analysis. Then you see what is important for you, and you know what is it that you need to improve on.
And I think employment engagement, when I finished my report, the first one I asked my colleagues, the first we have to share is our staff, the team. Then they know the value they have given to the company, right? And there's a question I think it's good to ask Emily from the audience. How to persuade a top management to invest on sustainability, since it cannot have a short-term reward. You mentioned about for your past experience. Can you recommend to some of us that how we can, as your position, to tell the management to support what you want to do?
It's actually no shortcuts. We published the ESG report in 2016, but we already educate our management and also the top of the board of directors that sustainability is an up-and-coming trend. We need to focus more on the sustainability operation. We cannot just do the disclosure for meeting the Hong Kong Exchange disclosure. We have to do something. But we spent almost 4 years of education, and they finally discovered that sustainability is really important. We need to do something. So it takes time. It takes time for education. You can engage some vendors or some consultancy company to give them training, because board of directors, they have to get the trainings every year in order to meet the compliance of Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So you can just tell the vendor to give them some some trainings, or maybe some preparation about the ESG sustainability is highly important. It will just directly affecting the business operations, and it's getting more influence. The institutional investor, they cares a lot. Other stakeholder, they cares a lot. So we have to do something. It takes time. There's no shortcuts. So after 4 to 5 years, we finally have the sustainability committee and also the sustainability department.
I think I'm with you. This is a long journey, but you have to start now if you haven't. And like the keywords disclosure, that will be very difficult to hide your secrets. Right, and it's very transparent. People demand for transparent. And Serena, I'm also ask you for another things is about digitalization, about disclosure, and also transparency. Some years ago, I also joined the E-Trade Connect. I think you know what is it about. It's digitalization process. It's very good because I can save my staff costs. And then after, because I involved in Looplus, so I also calculate, from scope 1, scope 2, we save some saving. I save my costs. And then, but it didn't work that way. It didn't work out, frankly speaking. It stopped. So from DBS, do you have anything like this because a platform for transaction, when we obtain data, that is very transparent, especially for bank. And even for supply chain management is very good because they will have, from all the payment, is good for traceability. This is why we initiate and join the E-Trade Connect platform.
I'll probably offer a slightly different non-sustainable finance angle to what you asked earlier. So data, I think what we're actually also trying to work with platforms on is how data can drive business. So for example, we have partnerships with large Chinese marketplace players. So what we do with them is they're small suppliers. They will need to report their inventory or data on the platform. And based on that, we somehow know what their business is running like. And because of that, we have a much more comfort in our financing transaction to them. So what we are kind of seeing is using that as a tool to kind of lower the barrier or make it easier for some of our clients to work with us. Similarly for the supply chain kind of finance topic, because we trust the big players that we're working with. And so as a result of that, if I have an invoice issued to me from a very notable company, then that kind of lends lift to, like the whole financing process. So in that way, I think SMEs can obtain some of the financing or be able to, alleviate some of the cash flow pressure from it as well. So I think digitalization and actually what I was thinking is over time, we will probably see decarbonization platforms where we'll see these data being channeled, and based on how much data or carbon you manage to save through your electricity bill, then you probably will get some of better treatment as well. That will be kind of a visionary goal over time.
Yeah, with that data is very good because I'm doing also audit. So we know that from your, I think if any garment manufacturer, we audit by US Custom. I remember the first document they require is your electricity bill. Because you cannot hide. You mentioned that you make production for 100,000 pieces. Then I check out your electricity bill. Actually, yes or no, from all those raw data, you will know a lot of activities. And actually, with your transparency or your disclosure, it builds trust with your counterpart, right? So this is, let's see any other questions.
Sorry to add on.
Please.
Actually, I do think that digitalization will add value a lot to the sustainability operations. Before that, we just collect the ESG data by Excel spreadsheet. But 2 years ago, we set up the ESG electronic platform to collect the data of Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. And starting from this year, we started to collect the suppliers' data, which is the Scope 3 emission as well, by the data electronic platform. So I guess digitalization will be really helpful. You just automatically calculate the Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions without, seeing the formula, emission factor. So it will be really helpful. Yeah.
Very nice, Emily. We're on the same page. Because from all this transaction, we group all the supply chain people together and we share the data, right? John, go ahead.
Yeah, if I could, I just want to go back to the earlier question on how to convince people. I think it's true that some sustainability initiatives, there's no immediate payback, but you mentioned electricity bill. Energy efficiency, there can often be a really good payback. So it's a good area to get started where you have a return, you can show the business that you're actually having, you're actually saving money and you're also benefiting from a sustainability perspective. The other thing is, if you're a family business, think about purpose and legacy, right? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? That's something that I think can resonate in a lot of cases. The last thing is, people sometimes ask the question, okay, how do I become more innovative so that I can be more sustainable? Actually, the sustainability can be a kind of like a self-imposed regulation to become more innovative. I'll give the example of Stella McCartney. If you look at Stella McCartney, there's values that infuse their brand that have led them to be very innovative with things like grape skin, apple skin, doing all these interesting things with products. So the sustainability commitment itself can drive innovation because it forces you, necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Yeah, and I also feel that just exactly you said, the sustainability engagement is actually, I remember, all in a sudden I remember this word, omni-channel. We engage the host, different stakeholders into one ecosystem. I hope this will be the future. And anyway, thank you very much. And thank you for everyone today for joining us today. Please give us feedback. And next year, we will continue for Fashion Summit. Thank you very much. And thank you, Emily. Thank you, John. Thank you, Serena, for your valuable time. Thank you very much.